So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we're taking out something from MotoGB, which are an importer of Lifan, although they don't call it a Lifan. And we're taking out their model E4. So I guess just to cover off Lifan. So Lifan were here before, actually. Back when we started in 2018, they turned up under an importer called HSC from Worcester. They had this one model. This was before NIU and pretty much everybody else. It was a 1200 watt, 28 mile an hour bike. Came and went. HSC decided not to carry on with them. But now that model is actually back also with MotoGB as their E3. Okay, so if you look up, I think it's called Lifan LF 1200. That is the MotoGB E3. You'll see all this in the manual. When you get the manual, you'll see it referred to as a Lifan. It shows the dashboard with a Lifan logo on it, which MotoGB have managed to take off. But this bike wasn't around back then, so this is one of the new models. Lifan actually have 3 electric models. This, I guess, is their top of the range. Lifan, just to cover them off, are the 3rd largest motorcycle supplier in China, after Zhongxing. Do about 2 million bikes they've done. Quite a large range. They've got, I think, 30 street bikes, as they call it. So lots of choice. So they should know what they're doing in terms of motorcycles and mopeds. Yeah, so this one, it's an interesting bike, this, because of where it fits in the grand scheme of things. If you were to compare it on power, you would be comparing it to like an NIU MQI GT, a Robo S. But if you were comparing it on batteries, you would be comparing it possibly to an NIU NQI GTS, because it has the same rated batteries as that, 60 volt, 35 amp hour. Okay, so it comes with 1 or 2 batteries. As I said, 3 kilowatts. We will, although it's wet, we will try and do our speed test like we normally do to get the top speed out of it. But it says in the book 70 kilometers. When we had this on its stand, and obviously without a load, it was getting up to 57 miles an hour. And normally you don't lose, what, that would be 40 miles an hour. Normally you lose 15 miles an hour taking off its stand. But anyway, we'll see. So yeah, 70 kilometers, which is, well, 80 is 50, so it's going to be, about 40 odd miles an hour. But I'll be surprised if it only gets to 40. Anyway, so, and it's got a Bosch motor, which again is interesting because that would be, again, like a Robo, not now like the NIU NQI GTS. And it's got LG battery cells in it, 60, 35 amp hours. Okay, so that means if you do the maths on the batteries, that is 4.2 kilowatt hours of battery. Exactly the same as the NQI GTS ER, extended range. Okay, so, and they call this the E4 ER, by the way, long range. Sorry, E4 LR, long range. So if it's range you're looking for, this is basically like the 2021 NQI GTS ER or Pro, or the original NQI GT, because it's 3 kilowatts like that used to be. It's 60 by 35 amp hours, which it still is and always was. So that's what I mean. It's literally like that bike, but with Bosch and LG rather than Bosch and Panasonic. What you might like about it, or what I seem to like about it, is I like the style actually. And the reason I say that is because it just looks like a petrol bike. They haven't done anything fancy. You know, if you just want a bike to look like the bikes you used to have, but in an electric form, then you could easily mistake this for a petrol bike, because the styling is, you know, they haven't done anything different. In fact, they might have taken a plan from another bike they do, I can't remember, and just done that. So while we're here on this road, so this is a 40 mile an hour road, we're doing 31 in Eco. So there are 3 modes. You just flick it on the switch here, and as you can see, I've now gone into D, dynamic, and we're doing 40. Okay, 41. In the book, it says that dynamic and sport both do the same speed, which is interesting because no other bike that I know has 2 modes where you do the same speed. It's almost like, well, why would you bother? You might as well just have 1 mode. But as you can see, now we're cruising on at 40 in dynamic. We'll put it into sport when we get to the faster road and see exactly what it's doing. Okay, but 60 by 35 amp hour battery, they're saying 35 mile range. So that is probably about right. That's what the original NQI GT used to say for its 60 by 35 amp hour. Obviously we'll knock off a bit, so let's say it's 30. So it's 60 mile range, which is good for a bike that's going to go around at 40 to 50 miles an hour. Okay, so that's one thing. One thing to note though, this is the first of these that we've got. It only has 1 cable. So this is again like some of the other bikes where you have to physically swap. Now I'm checking that we haven't just been sent because this did only come with 1 battery, we haven't just been sent the single battery version, but if that's the case, then you have to do the swap of the battery to charge it, and you also need to probably have 2 chargers, because you can't really, unless you want to get up at night, charge both batteries together. You'd have to charge them one after the other. So 2 chargers is probably the way to go, because they don't do a splitter. Okay, I don't know if you noticed the dashboard, but one of the sort of nice things they've done, which again I can't think of any other bike that does this, is actually to have a sensor. So a sensor for light and dark. Okay, so if you cover that up, see it goes to dark, uncover it. Okay, so quite a nice idea for sunlight and stuff like that, to make it easier to read. I can't think of another one that does that, so quite a nice touch. I have to say, it picks up pretty well very well actually. Comparing it to the MQI GT, I would say this is more sprightly, because that MQI GT is quite heavy. The LX08 would be, should be, probably about the same, because it's more powerful but with lower rated batteries, so the end result is it should be about the same. Okay, so, but I do like the way it picks up. Obviously it's silent. It is running on 12-inch wheels, which some people won't necessarily like. So all NIUs have basically standardised on 14-inch wheels now. So yeah, 12-inch wheels, some people might think that's on the small side. It doesn't bother me too much. I'm not so keen on 10-inch, I have to say, but 12 versus 14, not too bothered. Okay, so as we're at some lights, so just to look around the dash, so you've got your mode here, and you can just flick them as you wish. SDE, hazards, you've got your ready button on and off. full beam, flasher, indicators, horn. Nothing really clever about this bike, but you know, again, would you buy a bike because it has an app? I wouldn't necessarily say so. It does have Bluetooth. I've yet to work out what that will give me, but I will check it shortly. A bit of storage, USB port, bag holder, and then you see quite a lot of room for your feet. So I've got 9.5s and quite a lot of room there for my feet. No issues with that. Under the seat go your 2 batteries, so nothing under the floor. The batteries are column type batteries, so they are square but tall, and obviously with one you get that space to put things like the charger and what have you. Wisely, they have provided it with the rack included. Okay, so you are already set to put a top box on it. You've got a little windscreen, you've got CBS, so back and front. It also has got regen, which it says anyway. I haven't felt it, but it says it's got it. Okay, so as I said, yeah, quite a clear dashboard. You've got an odometer there, ready, Bluetooth connection. Although I haven't connected it. And then this is your amps and then battery charge remaining. Okay, so 66%. Okay, so I quite like it to ride, and I just like the way it looks, because they're not trying to be clever about it and make it look electric. It just looks like a standard bike. It's not on the grant. That is one thing to say. MotoGB haven't yet done that. They are doing it, they tell me, but they haven't yet done it. So basically what that means is until they've done it, this doesn't have the 3-year warranty on the battery, and I think it does have a 2-year warranty on the bike regardless, but it doesn't have the 3-year warranty on the battery. Again, from what we've now seen, having done this for 5 years, we have never actually replaced a battery for not doing the 80% charge. We've had one person who thought that was the case, but when we checked the charge, bearing in mind it's charge, not range, which are different, we found that the charge was okay. The range could have been off, but that could have been because of load, terrain, temperature, leaving the batteries out a long time, charging them when it's cold, etc., etc. Okay, so I get why people might be worried about it, but the reality is we haven't yet really seen any issues with batteries in their 3 years anyway, so not too worried. Okay. So colours are this sort of matte grey and white, and as I said, it is 3499 with one 60 volt 35 amp hour battery, and 4499 with 2. Okay, so you're comparing it to, from a battery perspective, as I said, to an NQI GTS ER, and from a price perspective, something like a Rob OS, an LX08. These are more likely to be around the same performance, but not in range. If the bike comes with 2 batteries already, like the LX08 and the MQI GT, then obviously you're going to get more range. But if you add the second battery to this, then you obviously go up in price. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll take it to our normal sort of speed test place, and we'll just see how quick it goes from 0 to top, and then hopefully that'll help you in your research. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we are at our test starting point, and we're just going to do what we normally do, which is to basically put it into S and then see how quickly we get to its top speed, and then talk a little bit more about it. Alright, so just wait for a break in the traffic. Okay, let's go. 20, 30. Okay, so 43. So it's already hit its maximum before we even join the road. So 45. Okay, so pretty sprightly, as I said. We're not even at full battery capacity. This bike's probably only been charged twice, so it hasn't had, you know, the balancing, a lot of balancing going on between the batteries and things like that. So I think that's pretty good for what it is. You know, it's not supposed to be a 50-mile-an-hour bike. It is essentially the original NQI GT, 43 miles an hour, 3 kilowatts with 60 volt 35 amp hour batteries. It's basically the same in terms of technical spec. Obviously, some of the things it doesn't have, or the main thing it doesn't have compared to a few other bikes, is an app. Okay, so NIU obviously have that. Lexmoto LX08 doesn't. Robo has an app, sort of, not for tracking, which is what the NIU one does. So it is, in that respect, a basic bike. But as I said, who needs a bike? Who would buy a bike just because it's got an app? You can fit a GPS to this if you really wanted tracking. Okay, so in summary, it's I like it because of how it looks. No nonsense. It's sprightly, as I said. It's interesting where it fits. If it was a competitor to a 60 volt 35 amp dual battery bike, then it would be good value. If you were comparing it to a single battery bike, then you would really have to look at what you're getting, because a lot of the other bikes that are 40 odd miles an hour bikes need both batteries to get that power. In other words, this can ride around on one battery and still give you all the advantages of the full power, right? Whereas a lot of the other bikes, like the MQI GT, they need both batteries just to get you that power, and that's partly because they're 48 volt. Okay, so there are pros and cons. If you want to have, for example, this bike whizzing around with one battery on charge and not lose any speed, then this is a bike for that. I think all the other bikes that come with dual batteries do need to have both batteries loaded, so you know, that could be one specific thing. As I said, it comes with the rack, so that saves you a couple of £100. You might want to get a second charger, which will probably negate that advantage. You know, you could maybe say, oh, it's only got 2 choices of colour, but I'm not sure that's, again, a reason. The dash is nice and clear. It's clever with the old sensor on it. So, you know, a no-nonsense, but fairly good bike for the money. Okay, so hopefully that's given you enough to do your research. Obviously, if you want to test ride this bike, then please let us know. Come down to our new Brentford shop and have a go on this or any others of the ones that we've got in right now. And please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Green-Mopeds. And hopefully, if you have any questions, then please feel free to contact us on any of the other ways that you can. So thanks very much.